this is Paul Davis. So, Paul, what advice would you give to workers coming into this field, such as like what type of skills do you feel like that they need for this type of field?
I think definitely, in this field you have to be open. That's one of the biggest things. You have to be open. You cannot be judgmental. A lot of times I allude to the fact that, sometimes you got to forget where you came from and where you matriculated from. You have to, one thing I learned early on, I learned this around 18 or 19 years old, is that when you're dealing with a diverse group of people and individuals, not necessarily like yourself, that everybody doesn't grow up the way that you grow up. And I learned that some years ago. I was in a program where they kind of pulled people in from different backgrounds, from socioeconomical backgrounds, demographics. They had people that were in high school, people that, I'm sorry, not in high school, but high school diplomas, that graduated with bachelor's, master degrees, people who dropped out of high school, different religion-wise. You had Christians, Muslims, we even had Satanists, we had people that were, homosexuals, lesbians, straight. All of these different people. And it was funny because up until that point, I feel like everybody grew up the same way that I did. And I learned quickly that, everybody didn't grow up the way that I did. And so coming into this field, it taught me a valuable lesson that everybody's experience is not my experience. So, when you're dealing with, in this population, when you're dealing with this line of work, you have to come in with an open mind. And a lot of times, you can always reference your experiences because those are important. But as far as you implementing that and allowing that to be like a part of, advice, those are the types of things you have to kind of keep separated a little bit because you have to understand the person that you're dealing with. So to me, being open, not being non-judgmental. You can't be judgmental at all. And it was funny. I had a supervisor ask me a while ago. She had asked me, well, is it hard to separate your value system, from that of maybe some of the clients and some of the things you have to deal with in this field? And I told her, it is challenging. Sometimes, because my values and my morals, your values and your morals are going to be different than mine. And they're going to be different a lot of times with the people that we work with. And so there are certain things that you're going to have to kind of put to the side. And you can't necessarily over-evaluate because they're going to cause you to be a little bit more judgmental than what you need to do. I think you had another part to the question.
Yeah, and second part with this question, what would be some take-home advice that you would want to help give people in this program in social work?
First off, to be open. Find you a mentor or some type of advisor, honestly, who's in the field, preferably that may even work, wherever you choose to take a job at. And if you don't, and they don't necessarily have to be quote unquote a mentor or an advisor, but somebody that you choose to respect, that's kind of been in the field and been around it, for a while. I find that to be valuable because, but before you do that, you have to be open to learn. You don't know everything. And one thing about this job, I've been here specifically almost 8 years. There's always something new to learn. And even among my contemporaries, that come in that work the same position that I work or similar, who might even be younger than me, or may have just come out of college, I can always learn something from them as well. Because once you've been in the field too for a while, you get into the whole theory versus practice issues. You can always identify somebody who's come straight out of school because everything's theoretical, theory. And a lot of times, when you've been around it for a while, you're like, okay, all book. You're more on the practical side because you got the experience. But what I'm learning is, theory is always something I can even learn from them because there's a lot of things that we're not necessarily implementing that we've learned in school that we probably should be. So to me, it's always been in a position to learn, not thinking that you know everything. And if 2 or 3 people are telling you the same thing about yourself, chances are it's them and it's not you. And that's one of the things that I've learned. So, I went through a period of time, where I was, and I talk a lot from experience, I was kind of, in a way, I wasn't necessarily using a lot of motivational interviewing, but I was more or less being more parental, with my clients. You need to do this and you need to do that. And when they would tell me that, when my coworkers or when a supervisor would say that, I completely denied it. And then I had to kind of step back And so I learned, you know what, there's more than 2 or 3 people telling me this, you know, then chances are it's the truth. So with that, I mean, I started to pay attention to what they were saying, and I've learned from then, you know, to always be open. And if at all possible, always try to take a step back and see your work through the eyes of other people, you know, and that's what I've tried to do. Because then you see how they interpret what it is that you're doing. I mean, it's not that their interpretation of it is right either, but what it does is it keeps you honest with your own work. And it also forces you to be accountable to not just yourself, but also to your coworkers, if that makes sense. So being open is going to be huge. The one thing I think I see a lot in the field is people don't grow because they refuse to listen. And again, finding a mentor. I know when I came into the field, my first supervisor, you know, she saw more in me than I saw in myself. And, you know, I stuck around and I listened, and it was some hard days. You know, but listening to her and then applying the things that she said, they taught me how to be a social worker, honestly. And now I'm indebted to them, and I'm grateful because I actually listened. And then even my current supervisor, I mean, when she became my supervisor, we weren't on the same page. And I mean, it was some hard days, you know, and I didn't necessarily think I was wrong about a lot of the things. But what I did is, even when I thought I was right, and I mean, sometimes I stepped back, because sometimes it's not important for you to be right or to, you know, impose your will or your truth. Sometimes you just need to listen. And it's okay, you know, for you to know that you're right, but for them to tell you that you're wrong. And so learning to do that and kind of being quiet about things, it gave me an opportunity to observe, but then I grew through that. And also I earned the respect of my supervisors through doing that, because they looked at me and they're like, okay, you know what, he's definitely teachable, you know, he's trainable. That would kind of be my advice.
Beautiful. Yeah. Any other thoughts before signing off?
No, I mean, I can't think of it. I was trying to think of this acronym that I always use. I think, and I can't remember it. How does it go? I can't think of it, but it was an acronym I always go by. But it goes something along the lines of always being in a position to be teachable. I mean, honestly, and that's where it goes, because trends in social work change so often, you know, because, you know, the world around us does. And if we're not in position to hear and to listen, when these trends begin to change, you know, a lot of times when they change, we have to change. And it's not necessarily that we're changing, you know, what it is that we're doing in our work, as much as sometimes we have to change our methods. Because your method here still has to match the trend. I mean, if you want to reach a broad number of, you know, individuals or people, and if you want to be consistent and in line with what's going on. And so when somebody comes into the office, or, you know, on your caseload, so that you have an understanding of where they are, it's important that we kind of know what's going on, and we kind of take a step back. So that will probably be my only advice.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
That's so good. How do we stop it?